Today, we'll be making this bear float into the air and into the ceiling. However, there seems to be a bug where when the bear reaches the ceiling, it just goes straight through and does not collide with the ceiling. I don't know exactly why that is, but we will find out. Here's my imaginary ceiling that's going through and just goes straight through it. I will work on that a little bit and try to see what's going on, and hopefully someone in the comment section can tell us why the bear goes through these objects that has collisions, as you can see here. Here's the collision shapes. We have the bear, we have the ceiling up here, and we have the floor that collides with it. However, you'll see that when we turn the gravity back to normal, negative 9.81 meters per second, you'll see that it will collide again. So that's very interesting. So let's get started with this project, and hopefully someone in the comment section can resolve this bug for us. First off, let's create a brand new project. Let's go to projects. Let's go to VisionOS and click apps, hit next. This is balloons 2 for me. Bear balloon. Let's call it bear balloon. And next, and we'll hit it into the Xcode temp files. Here we got started with our project. You'll see that in our project earlier, we have like we didn't need to click anything to immerse ourselves into the space or exit the space. So what we want to do is remove the dismiss option and set this to automatically display our immersive space. So I'm gonna remove that. We don't need that anymore. We don't need this anymore. We just need the environment to open the space. Let's do a dot task instead of dot change and remove all of this. That's all we really need to do. We need to just await this piece of code. And we don't need these toggles or these 3 model scenes anymore. We'll take that out. And instead of hello world, we can type in bear balloon. And with that, we are ready to start working on our immersive space. As you can see here, we have bear balloon and it'll automatically display these 2 objects here. Here's our bear balloon view window. Let's shrink that a little bit. Give this a default size of width and height of 100 and 100. Run it again, and I think we're ready to start this app. So here are balloons, or not balloons, but spheres, and we'll be turning these into our bear balloons shortly. So the first thing we want to do is grab that bear model and put it into our reality view. To do that, let's go grab that from our file. Here in my air balloons folder, I have many types of balloons. The specific balloon I want to have is the bear on balloons. Just drag and drop into your project. Here we have the bear on balloons assets, and very simply, we just need to type in bear on balloons. And we have this object. Let's call this balloon to make this a little bit more sensical for us. Wait a minute, there's a little bit more we have to do actually. So this is actually just the balloon model. There are actually multiple layers to this balloon, and we need to get to that balloon in the balloon model. So let balloon equals balloon model dot children dot first dot children dot first item. And with that, then we can get our balloon. Let's make sure we have the balloon. And let's run it. And we have a massive balloon currently. This is the balloon and it's attached to us, so we can't even see it. It's just completely attached. Well, let's go fix that. Okay, the first thing you see that the balloon is way too big. Let's scale that balloon back to a smaller size. We're gonna set it to a array of 0 0.2, 0 0.2, and 0 0.2. This shrinks the dimensions to about 20% of its size. Now we're gonna set the balloon position of y to be 1 above the ground and balloon 1 meter, and we're gonna set the position of z to be 3 meters in front of us because it starts out well at our particular location. Let's run that again. Here we see the balloon. It is about 3 meters in front of us. We can't really touch it right now because it doesn't have the right components to it. We'll add that later, and as you can see, the lighting is not there either, so we'll be adding the lighting into. Okay, let's first give our balloon a collision component so it can interact with other objects that have collision components. So balloon dot components, collision components dot self is equal to dot init. We'll set a shapes, and we'll set this particular shape to be a shape resource dot. We're going to generate a sphere with a radius of 3. 3 or 3 meters is a bit much. Let's go with 1. Now, what we need to do next is to give it a physics body so it can like be affected by physics. So we'll set the components for physics body component dot self equals dot init, and we'll do a physics body component of mass. We'll do a mass property of dot default, give it a mass of 1 kilogram. That's a pretty heavy balloon. Then we do a material. We'll set dot generate some sort of friction, 0.8 and 0.5. Give it a constitution of 0.15. That's the bounciness of this object, and we need to make sure that we set the mode to be dynamic. Dynamic allows it to move around. Kinematic is it will just stay there for user control, and static will be it never moves. Let's hit that dynamic. Let's separate these into its proper location. 1, 2, 3, and there we go. And with that, I think we are ready to see the balloon fall. But it's going to fall straight through the ground because it has no floor. We're going to have to replicate a floor that is, yeah, just fell right straight through the floor. We're going to have to replicate a floor because we don't have ARKit working yet. So we'll need to do that. Okay, let's generate this floor. Let's floor equals to a model entity of mesh and material. We got the mesh that we're going to use is a dot generate a plane with a width and depth of 20 meters by 20 meters. And our material is going to be our occlusion material. This is a transparent material. Next, we'll add the floor to generate a collision shape, false. And we'll set it to static. Floor, not components. Physics body components dot self equals dot init. We'll do a physics body component of type mass property, and material. That's for default. And mode is going to be static. This keeps the floor from moving, and we'll add this to our content floor, and we should have a floor that the bear can land on now. Let's take a look. Okay, as you saw earlier, the bear is not lit up, and we want to light that bear up. So let's bring in some lighting. Go to your files and bring in the Studio Skybox. Drop it into your folder. First, let's pull it in that skybox. So in our balloons model, we have our balloons. Let's add that lighting to it. Let environment, or we can set it to lighting, equals try await environment resource. Name is going to be studio in our name, and it's going to be in our file. So with that, we should be able to get the environment to light up our image. Now type in balloon. No, this indentation is not very good. Let's fix that first. Command All, Command Control I. So balloon dot components dot set image base lighting components. Set the source is going to be dot single, a single source from our environment. Now the next thing we need to do is what's going to receive the lighting. So balloon dot components dot set image base receiver component. We're going to light up the balloon. Next thing we need to do is to give it a shadow, otherwise it's going to look funky. Let's take a look though before we add that shadow. As you can see, the bear is lit up much better, but there is no shadow, which makes it very unrealistic. Now, type in the balloon components dot set grounding shadow component cast shadow to be true. With that, we'll have a nice realistic bear with a balloon and a shadow, as you can see. Let's do some more work and drag this bear around. So first thing we need to do is allow for touch inputs for this particular component. Dot set input component, target component. And with that, we should be able to touch this particular object now. So what we need to do is add a gesture to this reality view. And we're going to do a drag gesture to drag this around. Before that, we need to create a drag gesture. So let's create that. Var drag gesture. And is of some type, some gesture. And it's a drag gesture. It's going to target any entity. And on change, we're going to change the value of this particular position. So what we need to do is set value dot entity dot position. It's going to be equal to the value dot convert this particular value dot location 3D, this particular location, from dot local to a new location. So that particular new location is going to be value dot entity dot parent. We'll also need to set the entity dot physics component dot physics body component dot self dot mode to be equal to dot kinematic, so for user controlled movements. And once it ends, we have to set it back to dynamic. so that it moves again. All right, with that, let's see if this drag gesture works. Okay, there's the bear. Let's drag it around, and it drops properly. Perfect. Okay, now time for reverse gravity. To reverse gravity, we need a physics simulation component and change gravity. So balloon, not components, not sets, physics, simulation component. And we're going to do a balloon dot components at the physics simulation component dot self dot gravity is going to be a sim 3D of x, y, and z. X is going to be 0, of course. Y is going to be a positive number of 0.1, and z is going to be 0. And with that, we'll see that the balloon starts floating upwards because gravity has reversed for this particular bear. Now, you would hope that the bear would hit the ceiling and stop. Let's suppose it hits the floor and it should stop, but it doesn't, as we shown earlier. It rises through the floor, which is a collision component, and ignores the collision. Let's add a ceiling and see that happen again. Add a ceiling, it's very similar to adding a floor. So type ceiling equals the model entity of a mesh with a generated plane, right? And with a width and depth of 20 again. Materials, ceiling. And one thing that's different between the ceiling and the floor is that position dot y, we're going to set it to be equal to 3 meters above. So as you can see, once we add the collision shapes, we see that there is a ceiling that is about 3 meters above, and the bear is going to run straight into that ceiling and go straight through, and that's it. It keeps on floating away forever. And hopefully somebody in the comment section can let us know how to resolve that issue, because I do want balloons that touch the ceiling and stop. And with that, that's the end of our tutorial. Hopefully we learned a lot about components and entities today, and we resolve this bug sometime in the future.